Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Thank you very much for joining us today. You can see we've got the teams all here to go through our Everfest spoiler card. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Everyone, thanks for tuning in again here to Dice Commando. Very excited to be here today. I am Andrew. Also, I am joined today by Josh and Dean. How's it going, guys?
Going great. How are you?
Awesome. Well, so Josh has been on many a Go Again in the past, Dean on some of our other stuff, but he is also an integral part of the Dice Commando community, also a big Runeblade player, so give him the big bear hug. But so as we go into this today, before we get started, want to, of course, give a huge shout out to LSS for the honor of being able to do this. We're very, very excited, obviously, about this spoiler coming February 4th, which is closer than you might think. So get those pre-orders in, folks. So, and also, if this is your first time here checking out Dice Commando, what we do here is we do gameplay videos, commentary videos, and basically just all things fab. So hit that like, subscribe, let us know what else you're looking for, and we're happy to have you here. So, all right. So before we get into the spoiler card, just real quick, Josh, what are you looking for in Everfest? What's your number one thing?
The number one thing I would like to see is some Guardian Gucci boots.
Gucci boots.
Oh, awesome! That's perfect. Yeah.
tired of those little red things, huh? So fair enough.
Oh yeah.
And how about you, Dean? What's your number one wish list?
I like new equipment and new lines of play for existing heroes, which is what Crucible gave us. I'm hoping we'll get similar things here.
Absolutely. And we are, of course, shooting this well before spoiler work has actually started, so we will not be covering any of the fun stuff that we've seen over the last couple of days. So without any further ado, let's go to our Everfest spoiler, which is, to my own heart, it's a Ranger card. That's right, folks. So, Battering Bolt. So, no need for strategy when you've got the biggest arrow around. Blow through your opponent's pathetic defenses. Their little party tricks will prove futile against the raw power of your Battering Bolt. So Battering Bolt is a Majestic, so we assume there will be just the red pitch here. So it is red, 2 for 6. Arrow, of course, when Battering Bolt hits a hero, they reveal their hand and discard all cards other than action cards. Then they lose 1 health for each card discarded this way. All right, hot first take. What do you think, Dean?
I like the idea of a tall Ranger. I feel like there's been a push for wide lately, especially with Lightning Lexi. With this being one of the first 2-cost Ranger cards, that plus any kind of pump is a pretty scary card to hit you. And against certain classes that have a lot of non-attack action cards or whatever in their hand, that's a brutal effect.
Absolutely. So looking at this for Azalea to try to punch it through, because otherwise they're not going to let you get it through, I wouldn't think. So
that was kind of my thought. Was it is 2 costs, which we haven't seen before. It's a base 6, which I think the only thing that approaches 6, I think, is Headshot if it goes in red and up face. I'm kind of worried it might be just a sideboard card, though. You're not going to be running this against Guardian, even though it's a higher attack value. They run a lot of attacks, and they don't mind blocking with them. And they have a chance to react with defense reacts, so you're not getting those out of their hand. But I do, A, love the art on this card, and B, I think that it's a card that a lot of classes that rely on attacks and non-attacks are going to have to worry about quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of sideboard, are you talking Prism matchup type stuff? Or because if you're doing it just for that, then there's probably other better cards to run, right? So, or are you thinking in specific use cases?
Well, I'm thinking you're probably just not you'll probably bring something else in against like Guardian, for example, because they don't run many non-attacks except for like Terra Sunder now. Might be, and maybe
Well,
some Guardians are
it's
still running.
all cards other than action cards. So attack action and non-attack action would still be protected, right? I believe. So
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I did misread that
yeah,
actually.
yeah. So I mean, the effect certainly is not as like I think when the first time you read this, you're like, oh, it's going to make them discard one or two cards, and I think that's not. I mean, we'll see. We know supposedly there's going to be items in Everfest, right? So what were you going to say, Dean?
If you pair this with increased attention where they can't play defense reactions, that's when you can really hurt them, because then they can't play
Oh,
them
that's
and they
fair.
take damage for having them. So I think like my immediate thought was going tall and trying to maybe put some blue pitch in Ranger, which you didn't usually do, but playing your overflexes, increased attentions, things like that, and taking all your cards that have the worst hit effects and just making them really have to eat your arrows.
Mm-hmm. So I think what'll be interesting about this, and obviously we can't answer the question now, but if Ranger does get a series of 2-drop arrows, you can consider running Pummel, right?
Mm.
Which
Ooh, yeah.
right, because you could Azalea. I mean, I don't know. Say you Azalea dominate, and then you Pummel. You get to choose the order of your effects. So you go, you discard anything that's not, and then you discard anything that doesn't qualify, and then you would still get the Pummel discard on top. But I think you'd have to have. What do you guys think the magic number would be for twos? You'd have to be, and I mean, I'm not talking raw count. I'm talking number of unique cards. You'd have to be running at least 3 or 4 twos to make it worth it, right? And probably more than that, just to get the draw to line up is what I'm saying, right? I mean, you can have
Yeah.
Pummel in your arsenal. Well, no, no, you can't have Pummel in your arsenal, right?
Now you
So
can't.
yeah. So I
I'm wondering
think.
if you
Well,
wear a
actually, if you're
chess
running
piece to pay
the
for it
What would you say,
and
Dean?
just run a couple. If you ran a couple of these and you still had a cheaper deck where you're playing a lot more zeros and ones, then usually like your chess piece, blow it up to pay for when you get the 2 costs through. But yeah, running Pummel would be tough unless you go all tall and you play more attacks that are non-ranger,
Mm-hmm.
command and
Oh well,
conquers.
that's fair. Actually, that's fair. Yeah. What were you gonna say, Josh?
I was going to say that you could always run a couple blue pummels because they serve the purpose of paying for things, and if you actually have the opportunity to pummel just for the effect, I think, especially with battering bolt, you're wanting the effect of the discard from pummel more than you're wanting the extra damage. So running blues serves kind of a multi-purpose there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I run lunging press, right, as you guys know, in my Azalea deck for that I mean, it's essentially the same slot. But again, I think we're talking into the wind here because you'd have to see a significant number of more 2 arrows. Or to
Yeah.
Dean's point, maybe you just don't, maybe you just run 2s, but, we just run a whole bunch of 2/6s. So, yeah, that's a good point. All right, so I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, at least. Well, it was obvious to me that this was an Azalea card. Can you run this in Lexi? Does Lexi consider running this?
I think it's easier for her to support a higher cost curve. She has a lot more 1 to 5s, and if you were to put in a bunch of pumps, on a lot of terms you'd have 1 for a pump, 1 for whatever attack she's got, and then you'd have occasional turns where you run like a 2 like this. So I think it might be easier in a way to run Lexi. And then if you're pitching blues, you load the arrow, you add the damage from her bow, pump it, and hit him with the arrow with a hopefully nasty effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
I'm just rereading the blurb there. I think there's probably a hint that there's an expectation that there's going to be some items or things that are not actions that Everfest is bringing in the Carnival slot, perhaps, that this card is kind of designed to address. Because it mentions their little party tricks will prove futile. So I'm wondering if there's just an expectation that there's going to be other cards in hand that aren't just actions and defense reactions that we
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen as much before.
More potions and the like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And then I do suppose this could be a meta. Like if Wizard continues to pick up steam, I do suppose this could be a wizard, right? Try to get all their instants, but then I guess they'd just try to play all their instants before you hit, I suppose. But it is an option there. So I guess that would be your sideboard option. That's fair. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, just the concept of opening up the 2/6 for Ranger, because Ranger's typically been pretty low profile. So at least this is expanding the design space. Whether or not this card is the card of all cards, I don't know that that's the case. But being a 2/6, opening up that design space, I think is pretty big for Ranger. I'm gonna have to definitely rethink my deck cost curve if this is the case going forward. Well, but that's not a bad thing. So yeah, I think that'll do it. I mean, it's just the one card. So Josh, you have any closing final thoughts?
No, I actually am really looking forward to see this in foil if I happen to pull any, because I think it'll be a beautiful card.
Well,
that's gonna be pretty.
I can actually show that across the screen right now. The one LSS sent me is in foil, so I'll try and take it from a couple different angles and put it up on the screen. Obviously, the two gentlemen can't see that right now, but I can add that in, or at least try to add it in post editing. But it's relatively dark, as you can imagine, but the gold picks up the shine pretty well. Or the yellow, I should say, the yellow colors pick up the shine pretty well. But yes, that's a good point to raise. How about you, Dean?
I'm looking forward to playing with this one. When Ranger first came out, I actually traded a lot of my good Ranger cards to you, but I've been getting a little bit more tooled up for Lexi. I feel like this into an Ice Lexi, where you're not as concerned about going wide, could be a fun card, and I think I have enough cards to support that, so I'm going to play with this one. It looks fun.
I mean, that's a fair point, right? Because you can, just a single blue pitch, you can dominate this, right? So my head's so narrow, laser focused on Azalea dominate, but you're right. You can Shiver dominate. That's pretty fair.
I think that's a good point also in the Ice Lexi build. If you're getting the Frostbite from using Lexi's ability, then you can afford for your arrow to not have an effect that you have to fuse. If it means you're chunking out an arrow that you can even give it +1 and make it a 7, and that breakpoint is pretty huge.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you can still lightning press this, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure lightning press doesn't require elemental. It's anything, right? So
yes, it's react.
Right.
But yeah, this with like an Ice Quake or Polar Blast or playing a Winter's Bite beforehand, like they're all nasty.
Yeah, well, Polar Ice Quake's 1 though, right?
Yeah, so you'd have to have a blue pitch.
Well, no, because you have to load your bow too, so you'd have to have
True.
2 cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you almost. Yeah, I don't know.
You save it for a Tunic
Well,
turn.
I think Polar Blast you're
look
wanting
them
is
up.
to play from Arsenal anyways, and you get to draw a card, right? If it's played from Arsenal.
Pull that one
So
up.
with Polar Blast, you put
that's
it in
true.
your Arsenal, you flip it up with Lexi to give them a Frostbite. It costs 1, but you're getting to recur that 1 with the card you draw since it was played from Arsenal.
So it feeds
They have
itself,
to choose
and you don't
to
need
pay
to worry
for
about
Dominate or not.
feeds itself, and you don't need to worry about fuse. So yeah, that's actually pretty legit, right? And can one of you guys pull up? I just want to make sure we're not giving bad info. Polar Blast doesn't require elemental attack, does it?
Polar Blast.
I'll pull it up as well.
Target opposing hero may pay whatever. If they don't, your next attack gains Dominate. If it's played from Arsenal, you draw cards. You don't have to play it from Arsenal. But it is a pump that makes them burn a card or resources prior to you hitting them.
Right. But it doesn't. It's not elemental focused, right? That was my
Nope.
thing. So okay, that's it. Yeah, and then they're probably not going to pay it because you're going to dominate it anyway when you send it in. But I guess I mean actually that's true, because if they decide to not pay and you get dominate, then you give it its +1, right? So yeah, that's pretty hot actually. I can get on board with that. That's a nice little combo, you guys. Yeah, nice. See,
and same
that's
with
why we do this.
Winter's Bite. Winter's Bite is a free one, so you wouldn't have to pay anymore, and that just makes them discard a card, or pay, and it gets to go again. So you can just do that to weaken their hand, and then smack them.
Yeah, I like it. That works. And then it obviously works with Redliner as well for Azalea to try to get a blue pitch +1. So we've got a couple different lines here. So let's see how. Let's see what the set ends up looking like. I think that's the big question, right? Of how many cards we can get out of their hand and if it's worth running or not. I think that'll be the question. So, all right, well, good. Nicely done, folks. You got me. This is why we do this as a team. I love it. So, all right.
Actually, I know you're about to wrap up, but I just thought of something else because we had kind of talked about before about Seek and Destroy.
Mm-hmm.
And now I kind of am thinking of this as a 1-2 punch where you keep all your action cards in your hand. And unless it's a good mix of non-attack and attack actions, you're probably going to have to keep some of those. And then Seek and Destroy then will, on their next turn, at the end of their turn, whatever they couldn't play out of what they were able to keep, they lose. So I think it actually does work with Seek and Destroy more than I thought that it would, mainly because I think I misread the card originally. But it forces you to keep some cards, you lose things that aren't actions, and then Seek and Destroy gets rid of the rest. So that's your pump and your into a Seek and Destroy for 1 blue.
Yeah, the thing is, Seek and Destroy doesn't prevent them from playing those on the next turn. So.
Right. Well, I mean, that's true. But I'm just thinking if you're getting rid of things that aren't action cards, unless it's things that they can afford with whatever they have left, then I would think that they'd be left with something that they'd want to try to arsenal or something they couldn't play out. And Seek and Destroy will not only pump the battering up to 9, but will also get rid of that card also in the back end.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, at the very least, it's still 0 for 3, right? So
yeah.
I'll totally get you that. So, all right, folks, if you're still here, I want to thank you for hanging out with us. The reason that we're able to get these spoilers continuously is because of you guys watching and liking and subbing and doing all the things that you're supposed to do on the YouTube. So thank you very much for that. I want to thank both of these gentlemen for spending their Sunday night here recording. Thank you both for obviously being here tonight, but also what you do for the channel. I appreciate it. So if you are looking at getting involved with Dice Commando as well, like these two gentlemen have in the past, you can check out the membership button below. It's the join button down there by your little subscribe button, which I know you've already pounded. So check that out as well. We'd love to have you. You can come join us on our Discord. We've got chatter all the time about various ridiculous topics. So it's a good time. So, all right, I'm going to wrap up and get out of here. Do you gentlemen have anything to say before we get out of here? How about
Go Commando.
Go Commando.
Go Commando.
I like it. Thanks, guys.